All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to my stream. And, yep, so welcome to my stream, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our introduction to tanking, presented by the Kugane Mount Farmers community. I have my Discord there in the, there on the introduction page. If you also want, I can also get you a link separate of that. Just go ahead and ask whenever you need to. We'll go ahead and get that out to you. We have plenty of resources and different strategies and videos, and we have a lot of knowledgeable people within our community that can help you and would be more than happy to assist you in any questions that you might have about your job or role. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, first off, there are 4 tank jobs, as everyone knows, within the role. We have Paladin, Warrior, Dark Knight, and Gunbreaker. So here on our schedule for this little mini class / seminar, we're going to have 3 main subjects that we're going to talk about. They have a little bit of mini branching topics to them, but for the most part, it's covering just these main 3. So we have number 1 on our itinerary is the tanking mindset and the philosophy for tanks. And that is what your role in the party is. This is what we believe. This is not the end-all be-all, but this is what we believe. We, have multiple statics in this community, and we all generally agree for the most part in a consensus on what your role in the party is. Number 2, we're going to go over the differences of each tank job. Every single tank plays a little differently, and each tank brings a different toolkit and role and different feel to the raid, to the party, via different buffs, via, whether it's some mitigation or whatever it is. They all have a different feel. They all bring something different to the table. And last but not least, number 3, we're gonna quickly cover how to play the tank role. So we're gonna go over the basics on how to play it. That's gonna cover what to do, what not to do, etc. All right, let's go ahead and keep this moving on. So first off, in the tanking mindset, you're going to be prioritizing the party over yourself. If you are a tank, you must prioritize the party over yourself. If you do not, then unfortunately, you're probably not going to be very popular as a tank, or your tanking days are going to be very limited, or you're going to have a hard time finding a good group that really wants to keep you around. Ultimately, it should always be about the party first, and you second, and you basically have to place everyone above yourself because unfortunately you're the tank, you're there to soak up damage. By nature, you are supposed to be a selfless role, and unfortunately you're going to have to embrace that to a degree. Number 2, you're going to have to effectively communicate with your party. Now, you might be asking, hey, I don't have voice chat, or I'm too shy for voice chat, or, thank you, HGNG for the follow. So you might be thinking, so yeah, no. So basically, for number 2, you have to effectively communicate with your party. So that does not necessarily mean that you need to have voice chat, but what it does mean is that before pulls, after pulls, even during pulls with macros, you need to communicate with your party, especially your other tank, your co-tank. Each situation in the fight, you need to communicate what you're doing. You're going to communicate which order you're going to do things in. You basically have to plan things out, especially with your other tank, because you do not want to have redundant mitigation, or you don't want to do the same thing when the mechanic calls for you to do opposite things and potentially get your party killed. Third, you need to observe each situation in a fight. You are unfortunately not allowed to let yourself tunnel vision as much as a lot of the DPS jobs out there, for example. You kind of need to keep your head a little bit and eyes on a swivel a little bit and actually observe each situation in a fight. You have to absorb what's coming at you. You have to pay attention to the mechanics, and you have to help digest it. Now, that is also a healer's role also, even more so than yours, but as a tank, you still have to be aware of what's going on. Number 4, you need to take the best action that you can to benefit the party whenever you can and at all times. So if you have to sacrifice your life, or you have to make the decision to, kill one DPS in order to save the party, or kill one healer to save the party, because it's just not possible to save the party without doing so, then unfortunately you're going to have to make that decision. Number 5, you're going to have to try to make the fight as simple for the party as possible. That means do everything in your power to make sure that they can just focus on the mechanics and their own rotation. Do not try to become part of the boss fight. Number 6, be flexible. You must always be flexible. That is part of observing each situation of the fight and being aware. Now, being flexible means you might have to, do something slightly different in the fight, or you might have to adjust because maybe your other tank makes a mistake and you catch on to it, and you have to correct for that mistake. So you always have to be flexible as a tank. Now, that means bend but don't break. So that means that you flex for your tank, but you don't panic, you don't break down. And the last but not least on that tanking mindset, you always have to be open to improvement. If you are not open to improvement and you shut yourself off and you are closed-minded, or you do not take criticism well, unfortunately, your tanking days might be limited, or you might not enjoy it, or parties might not want you as their tank, or might not want to raid with you. No one hates someone who either knows it all or is not willing to improve, You always have to show that you're willing. That does not mean that you have to be good from day one. That does not mean you have to get everything right away, but you have to have a good attitude. You have to always be open to finding out how to improve either your play style or your damage, whichever it is. Okay, moving on. The philosophical role of tanks. Basically, to sum it all up, the tank is the foundation of the party. The tanks are the foundation of the party. The healers are the structural frame of the party. And the DPS is the really nice drywall and all the fancy gadgets and gizmos to the house. Unfortunately, if your tanks are not, being steady, not being consistent, not being solid, your party will have problems in each fight because you don't have a solid foundation of which to build upon. Now, healers are also very important because you need to have very good structural support, but, you do need to have a good foundation. So tanks are very important in that regard. Number 2, you need to execute each action that you take with conviction. Now, that does not mean that you have to hit all your skills with conviction. What that means is that once you make a decision, you need to stick with it. You cannot, be unsure of it. You make your decision. Even if it kills you and your party, you go with it. You go with it. You make that decision and you just go for it. Because unfortunately, when you are unsure of things and you start doubting things and you start going back and forth and, running like a chicken with your head cut off, that can cause a lot more problems for the party in itself. So unfortunately, sorry tanks, make a decision and stick with it. Number 3, you want to keep the morale of your party stable. Now that might sound weird because you might be a timid person, you might be an introvert. I am naturally an introvert. What I do not mean is that you need to be the life of the party. I do not mean that you need to be the strictest person there. I do not mean that you have to necessarily hold the party accountable. What I mean by that is you have to, at least while you're raiding, while you are fighting, never show that you're panicking, never showing that you are unsure of things. That plays into the second part that we covered here. You basically have to make a decision, go with it, display that you're confident so that it instills confidence in the rest of the party. Because, as I said, without a strong foundation, your house is going to crumble. That's just how it is. So even if you're unsure, you have to at least pretend like you are. And if you are actually unsure between the pulls of the fight, you should be talking to people, asking questions, and all this other stuff. But as soon as you actually understand it, you have to be sure of yourself, or you basically understand it. You have to be sure of yourself and just take that action. If you like this video, like, subscribe, or leave a comment. You can also join our Discord in the link below.
Is it always me and Crystal the first time?
Basically, yeah.
And I think it's always me and Hannah the second time.
No.
Oh, it's the Tara.
Wait!
Oh,
wait! You guys didn't kill the comment!
Oh man.
Where are you going? Don't leave me.